Students, today we'll see the next topic in the chapter differential thermal analysis and differential scanning calorimetry. In the previous lecture, we have seen that what is the glass transition temperature, what are the polymeric phase changes, then compatibility of the pharmaceutical preparations and kinetics of the reactions. Today we'll see the next topic, that is the inorganic compounds and complexes in terms of the applications. Then we have calcium oxalate monohydrate, then high alumina cement, and lastly the clay and other minerals. So let us see one by one. So the first one is the inorganic compounds and the complexes. So generally, the dehydration, decomposition, and other reactions that take place with the inorganic chemicals and minerals are minerals were among the first reactions studied by the. So we may obtain vital information about the endothermic and exothermic nature of the reactions, which may be compared with data from the thermodynamic tables. So we can detect and other phase changes. The TRDS test itself is an effective fingerprint or effective tool for the of the thermal behavior of the compound under those particular conditions. So look at first, that is the inorganic compounds and complexes, that is nothing but the calcium oxalate monohydrate. So generally look at this particular figure 1, which shows the TTA of the calcium oxalate, which shows that whenever we have run that particular DTA under a flowing of air or and under flowing of the nitrogen, there is a obtain endothermic peak around 200 degrees Celsius, which is due to the loss of hydrated water, and it is similar in both gases. So, in nitrogen, the peak is around 400 degrees Celsius, is also in endothermic and corresponds to the breakdown of the oxalates with the loss of carbon monoxide. And when the atmosphere is oxidizing, however, the CO is oxidized as soon as it is formed and the peak becomes exothermic. So the endothermic peak at 800 degrees Celsius is due to the decomposition of calcium carbonate and is only slightly affected by change of the gas. The effect of DTA curve of changes in the heating rate, sample mass, and particle size, atmosphere, and gas flow rate have all been thoroughly investigated for this system. So this is the particular DTA curve in which we have to get different kinds of endothermic peak. Okay, so this is in case of A, there is a DTA curve which is occurred under nitrogen atmosphere, and in case of B, a particular curve which is obtained at a air atmosphere. So sample would be taken at sample should be taken at 10 mg of powder, and which is heated at the 10 Kelvin per minute rate. Then what are the metal complexes and what are the applications of metal complexes as far as the DTA and DSC is concerned, or we can say that DSC is concerned. So many complex compounds have been investigated by using DSC, and the effects of the metal and ligands on the reactions and the reaction enthalpies have been measured. So what is the effect of ligands and what is the enthalpy, that is the heat content of the system, that can be studied by using TSC. So the important factors are the loss of the ligands, changes and decomposition of the sample of the product. So one example of colorimetric use of DSC is cobalt-pyridinium chloride, which gives 4 transition up to 500 degrees Celsius. Okay. At about 120 degrees Celsius, a small endothermic peak having the enthalpy change of 12.6 kilojoule per mole is obtained. But this is corresponds to the no mass loss in the TG experiment. So three subsequent peaks at 180, 280, and 350 shows the progressive losses on the thermobalance corresponding to loss of 1, one-third, and two-third pyridine molecules respectively. And hence the total change in the heat content or enthalpy for these reactions, it is about 120 kilojoule per mole. So look at the figure 2. This is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these four different kinds of losses are there, but this is not corresponding to the any kind of mass loss. So these three losses are corresponding to the loss of pyridinium as one third and two third amount of this pyridinium, and hence we can get such kind of curve for the DS. Then the next one is the high alumina cements. So the ordinarily the Portland cements is made by heating clays with the aluminum silicates with calcium carbonate and consist of chiefly of mixed calcium silicates. So during their use, the cement is mixed with water which hydrates the silicates and produces a good cementing material which very slowly develop its final strength over a many months. So the DTA curve of an particular ordinary Portland cement is given in the figure 3 which shows that dehydration of material and also peak to fast transition which is occurred at 573. So this is DTA curve for the Portland cement concrete sample which is taken at 50 mg and heating rate is 20 Kelvin per minute. So these are the particular curve for this particular alumina cement. So the high alumina cement is made from bauxite and limestone, and it is mostly a mixture of calcium aluminate. So this reacts with water and gains strength more rapidly than the ordinary Portland cement, and so they speed up a building process. Unfortunately, under certain conditions, beams constructed of high alumina cements concrete collapse catastrophically. So a program of testing was undertaken at once in which DTA played a most significant role. So the material which is first produced in the hardening process is then carbohydrate. That is, we can say that uh, calcium aluminate decahydrate abbreviated as a CaH10. So this is not the most stable hydrate and may gradually undergo conversion reaction to more stable compounds such as the hexahydrate and hydrated alumina or gibbsite. So this is the particular calcium aluminate hexahydrate. It can write it as a C3AH6, then alumina trihydrate, that is the AS3, then calcium aluminate decahydrate when decomposed into the calcium aluminate hexahydrate plus alumina hexahydrate plus 18 molecules of water. So the conversion weakens the structure because the products of the reaction are more dense and the reacted structure more porous, particularly if conversion has taken place rapidly. So the samples of 10 100 mg are run in flowing nitrogen at heating rates between 10 and 30 Kelvin per minute, and the calibration standards run under the same conditions. So the degree of conversion is calculated from the height of the peak which is measured, which is shown in the figure. So DC is equals to 100 into amount of AS3, that is the alumino trihydrate divided by the amount of AS3 plus amount of the calcium aluminate decahydrate, or DC is equals to 100 into into height of the A3 peak divided by the A into height of the A3 peak plus B into height of the CaH10 peak, or we can calculate it as DC is equals to 100 into height of the AH3 peak divided by the height of the AH3 peak plus K into height of the CaH10 peak, where A, B are the calibration constant and K is equals to B upon A. So this is the particular DTA curve for the high alumina cement standards having conversion, that is a 50% for the A, diagram A, where there is a 50% conversion, and in the diagram B there is a 70% conversion is going to be takes place. Then the next one is the clays and other minerals. So the literature describing applications of DTA on minerals is very large, and only a few typical examples will be described here. We have already seen from the HSC experiment, that is the high alumina cement experiment, that minerals give characteristic DTA traces. Single component minerals such as the quartz show their phase transitions. Borate minerals have very complex structures and cannot always be characterized by elemental analysis. So for a series of minerals of general formula M2B6O11 XH2O, some containing discrete anions that is shown in the figure 5a, lost most of their water below 250 degrees Celsius, while others, which have linked chains, do not decompose until much higher temperature, that is shown in the figure 5b. So this is two figures, that is figure the figure 5a and b, where in the a, loss of most of their water below 250 degrees Celsius, while in the B, which have linked chains, do not decompose until at a higher temperature. So this is about the B. So at up to 250, there is going to be decomposition, or we can say the loss of water molecule is going to take place in A, but it is not happen in case of B. Then next one is the organic compounds. So the reactions of organic materials and the polymeric materials, both natural and the synthetic, have been widely studied by DTA and DSC. So the effect of atmosphere are very important here, since oxidative degradation may occur by a very different mechanism to non-oxidative changes. So first one we'll see the oxidative degradation. So the polymers and also oil degrades when heated in the oxidizing atmosphere. So a standard test for this has been devised and may be used to compare the stabilities of the polyolefins and other oils and fats. So the sample may be heated in nitrogen to 200 degrees Celsius, and the atmosphere then changes to oxygen with the temperature held constant at 200 degrees Celsius. So the time for the onset of exothermic oxidation is then noted. Alternatively, the polymer may be heated in oxygen and the temperature at which the onset of oxidation has been noted. So the same type of the test may be applied to the lubricants and edible oils and fats, and has been used to test the efficiency of the antioxidants. Then next one is the organic compounds. That is the next point, protein denaturation. So proteins may be classified as a fibrous with long thread-like molecules. For example, collagens or globular compact spherical shapes such as the insulin. Both types have well-developed structures involving folds, coils, or sheets, or even a helix within a helix. We can say super helix has been there. So these structures are destroyed by heating or denaturation at extreme pH, and this reaction. So as we know that what is meant by denaturation, denaturation breakdown, or we can say the decomposition or degradation or destroying of that particular protein structure, we can call it as a denaturation. So figure 5 will shows that the denaturation of the collagen, a single material, while figure B shows that there is a complex layer of multi-component system found in the real animal muscle protein is observed. So this is the figures, two figures. It shows the microDSC curve for the denaturation of proteins. In the A, 800 mg of the 0.3 percent of collagen solution, which is sealed in a vessel at the rate of zero point 0.5 Kelvin per minute. And in the B, there is the 850 mg fish muscles are sealed with vessel and heated at a zero point 0.2 Kelvin per minute rate. With polymer degradation. So DT and DSC study will give a further information on stages and enthalpy changes which are involved. So the DTA curves for the oxidative decomposition of polyvinyl chloride (PVC) and the polypropylene PP are shown in the figure 7 and 8. So the PVC powder shows a small glass transition around 880 degrees Celsius, and then small endotherm near 300 degrees Celsius is going to be observed very immediately, followed by the very large exotherm peaking at around 550 degrees Celsius. So these later stages corresponds to degradation with the loss of HCl and the flammable volatiles, followed by the oxidation of the char, which is formed. So the polypropylene decomposes in a single stage, and the products are then easily oxidized. So single endothermic piece is obtained for the melt, followed by the large oxidation peak. So look at the figures. So this is the first figure 7, which indicates the degree curve for the polyvinyl chloride, shows are having powder 20 mg powder, which is heated at the rate of 15 Kelvin per minute in presence of flowing air. In the figure 8, there is a DTA curve for the unstabilized polypropylene film, which shows the only which having 20 mg of the given sample and heated at the 15 Kelvin per minute rate, having air atmosphere. So this is all about our chapter differential thermal analysis and differential scanning calorimetry. In the next lecture, we will discuss about the next chapter. Okay, thank you.